Not really. All my dirt experience is obviously on two wheels or in a rally car. I did Monza Rally 2-3 years ago, and then I've had some rally car tests in the dirt. But the biggest thing is visually you understand the dirt. Like it's something that we've been doing since we're little kids. So visually you can see the line. The cars, I think, are always really different. Whether you can't. You try to compare this thing to a Lamborghini Super Trofeo car. She's a little different. But or a rally car at that point, you're in four-wheel drive and you pretty much just throw the thing in there and the four-wheel drive pulls you through. But I had a lot of fun trying to learn the car, understand the weight balance and everything. That's pretty much what we have to learn. When you come from two wheels, the biggest thing is just understanding the weight balance and when to brake, when to decel, and when to get back on the gas. And for me, it's the first time I've been in a car like this, and I swear there's 6 inches of free play in the steering, and it's quite different. It took me a long time to get used to that. But yeah, other than that, it's actually a lot of fun.
Boom, there's Chad Reed talking about MotoCar Fite Klub. That was the event that happened on pay-per-view. That's Fight TV last Thursday. Now, I was lucky. It took place at a track in South Carolina. Why? Well, I'll explain that as we get into it in this episode, but that's close to me. It's only about 2 hours from my house. So I got to go down for Wednesday's practice session and Thursday's race. And although it was a car race, and that's what it was billed as, really it was a bench racing session. It was a hangout. It was a good time. It was low-key. Yes, the drivers wanted to do well and learn their cars and maybe win, but it didn't affect their pay, how well they did. And mostly it was a little reunion, not only between people that probably don't hang out as much as you think, but also with the pandemic and things like that, there just haven't been a lot of fun hangouts, especially in person. And that's what we got here. So in this podcast, I'm going to give you some audio that I recorded, mostly actually from a Wednesday night Q&A. And this was something that fans could bid on to raise money for Road to Recovery, which is certainly a worthwhile charity. Road2recovery.com. You can go there and donate to a variety of causes that help injured riders get back up. So fans had a chance. I think they could only fit 27 people or something like that into this local restaurant. And they had a chance to get autographs from the riders, get their names on the hoods or the roof of the cars, and also ask questions of the riders, which is not something, obviously, that fans are generally able to do. So shout out to Road to Recovery for supporting this event, and shout out to these drivers/riders for supporting Road to Recovery. And we'll get into it all in this episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. But first, podcast. Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast, brought to you first by Yoshimura. New RS12 exhaust systems coming all the time, and that includes a new one for the YZ450F. RS12 is now available for ordering. It's no secret the YZ450F has tons of power and torque, so they have focused on smoothing the transition of both the power and torque of this bike, and the new RS12 system responded accordingly. Plus, you got a little more mid and top end and added torque, but it's not just about the peak power gains, it's about the rideability and controllability of the power of that bike. And the RS12 also looks really cool with its asymmetrical shape muffler, allowing maximum capacity, but also able to clear your rear brake caliper, and a lot of other things, including the patent-pending precision taper fit insertion ring. So you can add or remove sound inserts and spark arresters for your off-road types as well. Order it now. Go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out the RS12 for the new YZ450F. Also, this is brought to you by MX Tech Suspension. Got a podcast coming this week with Julian, the owner of the PRMX team. It's one of the big privateer teams in the pits, and they give a lot of credit to MX Tech, not just revalving suspension, but a lot of the innovative components that they have, and that includes the Lucky Fork, quality engineering based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension. The Lucky Fork features dual springs, dual cartridges, and huck valves, but is also ultra lightweight, using the latest in technology and coatings to deliver maximum performance while remaining the lightest shock available. Go to mx-tech.com for more information. They also use a proprietary rear shock from MX Tech for that PRMX team. Cade Clayson putting it in main events, might have seen Devin Simonson, a guy who no one had heard of, doing really well on 250 West, even doing well and showing speed before everybody got hurt. The National Rear Shock promises a weight reduction and is equipped with the best technology, best coatings, and the most adjustability of any shock currently available. So check that all out. The Lucky Fork and the National Shock at mx-tech.com. And then we'll get into it with the Privateer PRMX team a little later in the week. But we're going to stay right on the factory level here. So this Fight Klub thing, I'll tell you all about how this works. During the pandemic last year, nothing was going on. Somewhere along the way, Rob Bitus, the ever innovative Rob Bitus, who knows every rider super much behind the scenes. He is an insider's insider. He's been part of the Parts Unlimited and Thor brands forever. And at some point, almost every rider has come through and been sponsored by Parts Unlimited and Thor. So he knows all these riders really, really well. And during the pandemic, he throws together this event along with his buddy Denny Hartwig, who used to be the PR man for Supercross. That was Moto Fight Klub. That's the one that had Pastrana and Wyndham and Villopoto, Bradshaw, Stanton, Brock Glover, Ivan Tedesco, Jake Weimer, and Michael Lessie won it. That thing was really popular because, okay, it's not often that you're going to get to see that group of guys racing on dirt bikes. Plus, there wasn't any racing going on in the world at that time. It was just shocking to see, is this really going to happen? Are they really going to pull this off? Are they going to get shut down? So that was cool. Then they had some other things. They had a flat track fight club already planned at that point, so they brought some of the top flat track stars of today and of yesterday and had them race on old Boltaco two-strokes, I think. It was like the hot flat track bike of the 70s. During the weekend there would have been X Games, but X Games ended up being canceled due to the pandemic. They had a freestyle FMX Fight Club, and they had the Pit Bike Fight Club. Rocket Rob Bitus always specializing in the pit bike. So they had that pit bike event with Villopoto and Willie Browning and Carson Brown, who are kind of pit bike masters, the master of the pit, in December. Then they had an opportunity to do a car thing, and a lot of that opportunity comes from there is a track in South Carolina, Follow the Bouncing Ball, to hear how this all worked. So Jessica Patterson, you probably remember her, WMX, one of the best women's motocross riders ever. She decides to, as her motocross days are winding down, she decides to move into GNCC racing. She was a Yamaha rider, so she gets support from Randy Hawkins, who runs Yamaha's GNCC team. And Randy and his team are based out of Travelers Rest, South Carolina. So Jessica and Eddie Ray, who was her boyfriend, fiance at the time, and mechanic, they go to South Carolina to work with the Hawkins team. They fall in love with the area. They move there. They race their GNCC operation out of there. And then somewhere along the way, this local car racing track, Travelers Rest Speedway, comes up for grabs. They decide to buy it. And now suddenly Eddie and Jessica, hardcore moto people as they are. I mean, Eddie Ray might love motocross more than anyone I know, and that's saying a lot. Now they're car racing dirt track people. And now they've actually got a couple of motocross tracks, too. They built a motocross track on the infield here, and they also built one on the outskirts, like over the turns 1 and 2 wall of this track. And then they have a new track on different property. They call it Next Level and Next Level 101. And then I think there's another track. I can't even keep up. It's 3 pieces of property, 2 motocross tracks and a car track with motocross. So these folks are all in on racing, all in on their tracks. They have these local Friday night car races all the time. They know the drivers. They know the cars. They can get cars if the motocross riders want to do this. So Eddie's talking to Rob. Rob's talking to Eddie. Rob floats it out there, I think, immediately to Carmichael, Reed, and McGrath, and they're all in. As long as they're each in together. One for one, all for one for all. So with those 3 guys saying, yeah, I would love to race a car, you've got it going now. And McGrath summed this up amazingly well when everyone was hanging out. He said, I'm 49 years old. If this was a dirt bike race, I wouldn't be here. I don't want to show my age. But in a car, I think I can still get it done. So with those 3, with Carmichael and Reed saying they're going to bring back old times and battle each other hard, and then McGrath's king of Supercross, so he's high profile. With those 3, people start coming out of the woodwork that want to compete here. Bitus said he wanted to try to get one current racer in because this was taking place on a weekday during this break. There was a weekend off coming up, so there was a break for anyone to compete. You know who I recommended to him. I said, get Brayton. Brayton's not in a factory team. No one's going to stop him from doing this, and he's local to the area. So Brayton was in to represent the current day racer, even though he's the same age as some of these guys. But it's cool because he does have history racing them, and that was kind of the theme, right, that it was like renewing old rivalries. Then they got Ryan Dungey in, and Ryan Villopoto was supposed to be in. He does all these Fight Club things, but I believe he actually had a wedding to attend and a bachelor party to plan and all this stuff. So he was in and then he was out. So Villopoto was supposed to be there. Carmichael's really good friends with Christian, who's a Tour de France cyclist that lives in the area. So Ricky recommended that they get him in to bring a little of that cycling community. So that was cool. And am I missing somebody? Oh, yeah. Well, Brian Deegan. Look, if you want driving and a motocross connection and you want to build some online heat, Brian Deegan is your guy. So Brian Deegan is in. He can wheel a car very well and certainly also known for his Supercross exploits, his freestyle exploits. Now his kids with Haley Deegan and Danger Boy, Hayden Deegan doing big things. So Deegan brings a high profile and some credibility as a driver. So that's your group. That's the event we had. So I go down there to Eddie and Jessica's track, and the practice day on Wednesday, it's all different. You can tell Dungey, for some reason, is comfortable immediately. I was quite surprised to see that. And then he revealed to me that he actually rented a track and a car in Florida the week before. He was in Florida during the Orlando Supercross and got some driving in. He even brought old Troy, his dad, down to Florida, kind of like the Wayback Machine. Troy used to be Ryan's practice mechanic in Florida. And there was Troy running the stopwatch at the rented car track for Dungey to get used to this. I think Chad snuck in for a test session at this actual track in South Carolina to get ready. These guys were pretty competitive. I know they're in the simulators as well. And also Deegan and McGrath have a lot of experience as pretty prominent and pretty successful short course off-road truck racers. I've been in and out of the short course scene here and there, announcing different events for Red Bull through the years. And Deegan and McGrath are no joke. They're not just big names, but they are legit drivers in off-road trucks. So they had some experience as well. Then you had Brayton, who had never really done anything like this remotely at all. And it showed. I mean, when Dungey jumped out there in practice, I said to myself, how is he so good instantly? And then when Brayton went out, it was not good. The whole idea here is that you pitch the car in and slide it through the dirt corner, and Brayton was just pushing the front end. It was understeering and heading up toward the fence, and the local drivers would get in the cars, kind of show them how to do it. They'd go out of pace cars so the drivers could go behind them and see where the gas and braking points were. And then Brayton got better as the day went on, and then everyone was okay. But they certainly were not cocky about how it was going to go. Online, yes, they got cocky, but they all knew that it was a complete guessing game, how the racing was going to go on Thursday. But the coolest part, I think, was that Q&A that they had for the fans. So I'm going to give you some snippets of that, and you'll hear some world-class bench racing with some world-class riders. Again, this was a night before the race fundraiser for Road to Recovery, where fans that bid got in and got to ask the riders questions. And this question here is simply, each rider, tell us your best story about racing against each other. First guy to answer was Justin Brayton.
My favorite moment, well, I never really raced. Actually, I'll tell you a moment racing Ricky. It was one of my first nationals. It was at Binghamton, and I forget if you were on a Honda, but I'll never forget. He came around to lap me, and I was probably in 20th place or something. And he came into this rut, so I let him cruise by. He came into this right-hand rut, and the second he got in the rut, he went wide open. And I'll never forget that moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I have to do? And yeah, it still sticks with me today. He probably lapped up to 5th place or something that day. But yeah, I'll never forget that. That really sticks out for Ricky. So, but yeah, I'm sure it was fun to sit back and actually watch as a fan, Ricky and Chad and obviously Jeremy and Dungey. I raced a lot. Didn't really race a lot. He was winning and I was usually 3rd, 4th, 5th. So, but yeah, I'm sure these guys could tell stories all night.
I mean, for me, I've raced most of these guys up here. I landed on Deegan one time at New Orleans Supercross in the 125 heat race. He was all mad at me and I was out of control, but ended up working out. MC, of course, our battles speak for themselves. The mutual respect there is certainly at an all-time high, and just the memories is something that I'll cherish forever and bring with me to the day I'm gone. And then, of course, Chad and our history together, fierce competitors, hated each other, we're racing, we're great friends now. So, just those moments that you have, and the older you get, the more you appreciate them. And I'm thankful that I was in the position to be amongst these guys. So that's what I'm most happy about, is the memories that I'll carry with me for a lifetime. some that I'll never forget.
How many times have you taken my Peloton class? So I think I'm like 50-0 against Ricky on Peloton. So I've destroyed him. So it might be the first defeat tomorrow.
I think
If you want to experience what death is like, take Christian's Peloton class.
You don't have to. So.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, he's a former Tour de France racer.
I'm local. We can all ride around
Yeah.
here, guys.
So go for that Peloton class. It probably hurt. Yeah. Yeah, I won't be in that. I think for me, obviously, I didn't get to race a lot of these guys. Chad a little bit. Ricky, of course, we had some great memories. I mean, I was, it's always a weird thing at the end of your career, right? Because I was winning, and then here comes the new guy comes along, and it wasn't like a new guy. I mean, it was happening for 10 years. It was 10 years in the making, and do you remember coming out to California and we went out on the boat? Because that's a funny story. We had some good races, but another funny story, him from being from Florida, his parents and my parents were friends, and when he was little, he'd come out to California. And we took him out on the boat once, and he got a little nervous getting in the water because he was scared of alligators. So he's like, get me out of the water, but he was a little kid at the time, so we had some fun with that. But, Ricky and I have been friends, and I'm friends with all these guys. It's a little weird when you're racing each other for a career because, the media makes it different than it actually is. And so when when you're friends with a guy, just like Ricky said and Chad, they have their differences when they race, but they race fierce, they race hard, they won a lot against each other. But the media always made it a lot worse. They kind of create a wedge and want you to hate each other. And I think all these guys are pretty friendly and would rather have it that way. But sometimes, racing just causes that. And Ricky was a little guy when I first met him, and to come out to California and stuff, and we were friends the whole time. And then when he started beating me, there was this, they were trying to make this big divide out of it. But for me, it's good. It was a good time to be racing. The 90s for me were really fun. I was really lucky, really appreciative to be able to get so many wins like that. And to be able to win one race is one thing, but to be able to win some races is a pretty fortunate deal. And I had a lot of great teams, a lot of good crew around me, and I still love my dirt bike. And I think for me, when I retired, the thing I made a promise with myself was that I just wanted to make sure I loved my dirt bike when I stopped. And I know a lot of guys, when they stop, they're just so fried and burned out. That isn't the case. So I feel good about that. I still love the sport. I have fun every Saturday watching these guys race, the new guys, and I yell at the TV because they make mistakes and do all the stuff that we all do when we talk about it. We see them racing, so it's pretty funny. You guys would probably laugh if you saw me talking to the TV, but anyway, I still love the sport, and I'm having a good time with these guys and getting to do fun stuff like this. And I think what people don't realize is, we've all ridden dirt bikes, bicycles our whole life, but to be able to get to do something different, like race a car, like none of us have real dirt late model experience, right? So we're out there trying to learn mountains of experience here in the we got 20 laps tonight or 30 laps, whatever we got, but like Justin said, we all want to win the race, and it's impossible to learn everything you need to know about car racing in one afternoon. You know what I mean? Brian has a lot of off-road experience, so do I, but it's totally different. So we're gonna have a good time in a while. Hopefully we don't wreck too much stuff, and most importantly, it's good memories.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be exciting. It's exciting to be here, and I think, personally, just being in good company, like with the crew. I probably feel like you guys in this seat, being able to race them tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting. But I don't have a lot of racing memories. Me and JB, we got together off a triple that one time in Phoenix. I don't remember that. In midair. We did 2011. We went off the triple together, and we basically leaned into each other and pushed each other off. So that was pretty crazy. But no, we didn't. It could have been pretty bad, but we were good. I did get the opportunity more so probably when I turned pro. I got to work with a lot of really top guys, and first being Ricky. He definitely made it miserable that my rookie season, taking me out in the corner, and I was his teammate, so he just wanted to toughen me up. But that was, at the time I didn't like it, but looking back it was pretty funny. But and then even you, Chad, we got to be teammates at one time, and so prior to us racing in the 450s, I learned a lot from him, and Yeah, and then MC, we got to race as an amateur. I was an amateur at the time, but you were retired. Still whooped me. You did. But so I just more so just getting to be around good people, and you know, I really feel as when I was young and being around these guys, just being able to see that champion mentality, you know, how they thought, how they, you know, went about things, their drive, their mental outlook on it all. It really helped mold me into be better as well. So just really maybe a bit better than racing. So yeah, good memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's pretty crazy and surreal to sit, you know, at a, I don't need to say table, but just sit here with a group of guys like this. I mean, I grew up in Australia, you know, and everything was just on video, or VCR back in those days, and it was probably 3-4 months old. And I remember that I think it was like 1997, you know, Brian came out to Australia and raced, and I just remember how cool it was to see. I was still an amateur at the time, and how cool it was to see an American come to Australia, and you know, all his gear was just super cool and factory, and his bike looked way cooler than everyone else's, and it was kind of like at that moment when you're just like, that's what I want to do, that's like my life, that's the goal, you know. And obviously, you know, I think everybody knows my childhood hero was definitely Jeremy, and even Ricky. It's funny that we ended up crossing paths with that career, because once upon a time I had Ricky above my bed in my bedroom. The big, you know, the Oakley ad. It wasn't weird. Like, I don't know why. I just always. I grew up with a cousin, so like the best guy when I went pro was actually my cousin. So like I never really felt like I had to have that like love-hate relationship with somebody to want to kick their ass or something. I loved my cousin. He was like my big brother. So like when I came here, it was just, I don't know, Ricky and I had a lot of respect, and we just kind of like, yeah, the rivalry was good, but it was people, you know, it was like it was my entourage, his entourage, and the media that really made it more fierce than what the two of us did.
I blame Ellie with Ellie's fault.
Yeah.
I blame you, JH.
I was gonna say Curly's actually
you were
the problem.
you were
He was
part
the
of
guy.
it, right?
Yeah. And so it was kind of funny, and but kind of like backing up a little bit, you know, being a childhood, you know, or having a childhood hero and wanting to race them your whole life, or wanting to be like them. Pretty funny story. Not funny, I guess, but funny now. In Bercy, which is a supercross race in Paris. It was the first time I got to race Jeremy, and we were battling. I think it was for second. I think Gilliman crushed us that weekend, but for whatever reason, we were battling. I think for second or third. It was for a podium. Maybe I was second. Totelli was third. Second or something like that. Anyway, it was a podium position, and it was my first year. It was my rookie season on the World Championship racing in Europe, and I had already signed my deal to come to America. And you know, long story short, like I'm getting to race Supercross with my childhood hero, and anyway, I'm like kind of like on him, and I think it was last lap, and I just dove up the inside, and we just collided. He probably has a little different story than I do. But my memory is, as I dived up the inside, he turned. I didn't know he was going to turn. The turn went left. And anyway, we ended up.
Moot point at this rate.
We ended up. We think we both crashed. I got back up. I still finished second or third, whatever it was. And then after the race, I'm just like, oh, man, I just took out my guy, you know. And
Yeah, and I was like going, what the F is
And
this
at
little
Bercy-
kid doing?
And at Bercy they have, I don't know what they call them, those bicycle rack things. What are those things? Like,
Oh, the
what do you
little
call that?
guards that kind of, so in France at the race he's talking about, we have a little pit area and they guard it off with like little,
They got it off by a
little chain.
manufacturer, actually. So
Yeah.
it's like Honda, Suzuki,
but it's
Yamaha,
like
all
staging
separated.
fence, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're all sort of together.
And here he comes, and he's climbing the fence one at a time, and the whole paddock's, and I'm like, oh, shit. Here comes my guy, and like I absolutely idolize him, and he's like, what the, you know? I'm like, oh. Anyway, long story short, we fixed it a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
We were at the Yamaha track together. I was on Yamaha Troy, he was on his own team, and anyway, we made up, and I felt like my life was back on track.
Yeah. It's a pretty funny, famous photo like from that though, right? Like we're both just crashing, and yeah, it was a heck of a way to start out, but we got over it. It was good.
But for me, I feel really fortunate that I raced most of these guys. You know, like I was old enough to race Jeremy and Ricky, and I guess I stayed around long enough to race Ryan, and it's funny, even like what Jeremy said about Ricky growing up. Like I was teammates with Ryan in 2009, and you see the development happening fast, and and you see him he was so fresh and raw, and the mistakes and how they act, and the mom, the dad, and everything like that. And it's really fun to watch, actually, because you see, you've been there, you've lived it, and everyone tells you, oh yeah, so and so when it happened. But like when you're actually being through it and then you start to see it happen again, it's really fun. So yeah, I mean, we've had so many amazing battles. Where do we start? And I mean, Ricky and I are probably the most. One of the, for me personally, it was the funnest rivalry that I've ever had. And mainly because there was so much respect, like James and I did the same thing, but James and I, there was real hate there. and I don't mean it like we hated each other, that we just so badly hated losing that it just spiraled out of control. And but deep down, it was like the respect was there, but just that you couldn't show that. That was the kind of rivalry that we had. So you had to put the tough side on and play the tough guy. But it was really, really fun.
So we've been following, there's been a lot of friendly trash talking going on Instagram. So I'm just curious, like, who's actually winning tomorrow? Like, does anybody want to step up and just say, like, it's going to be me now? Like,
I mean, I didn't come all this way to lose,
so
neither did they, though.
Are there any side bets between any of you, just because you guys have been making these cute little posters and stuff, and they're like, if you lose, you have to do this?
You know what's funny is my wife, on the way here, she asked me, like, hey, did anyone say anything about your Instagram stuff? And I was like, no one really cares. It was all just jokes. It's pretty fun.
I think everyone's
all week long. I was laughing at Brian's post, and I'm sure they were laughing at mine, and everyone, Ricky put up on one. Like, we were having a good time with that. So.
Alright, so no one's calling anyone out in particular right now. Like, if you think you have to do this.
I think that nobody knows enough about how to do this good enough that we can't even call it out, because who knows what's going to happen. You guys are going to see us not in our professional sports.
Yeah, that's good stuff there. Solid 15 minutes of old war stories with these guys. But Dunge, come on, Dunge. Lighten up, dude. Make fun of these guys a little bit. You've had some battles. We had an entire 2011 outdoor season where we made the joke that Chad should put a "Hi Ryan" butt patch on his pants because Dunge was just stuck behind him, moto after moto, would never try to make the pass. He was just right there running the exact same speed. There are definitely good battles that Ryan has had with these guys, but Dunge, man, he doesn't like to stir it up. Still not there yet. Maybe someday. Now, there's another topic I'll get to here in a moment. It's some great moments from freestyle with Deegan. It's a really compelling story, and McGrath with his attitude of what racing was like in the 1990s. But before that, let's just thank our sponsors again. Go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out the RS12 exhaust system, now available to be ordered for the YZ450F. Not trying to make more peak power, but try to smooth the transition from low end to mid-range to top-end power and make that Yamaha more rideable. And you know what's funny? Some things never change. The Yamaha big four-stroke from day one, it was the first. The YZ400, then the 426 and the 450, it's always had power. But making it produce controllable power has always been the thing. And Yamaha has made various changes through the years to try to do that. This is even back to the original steel-framed, oil-tanked motor to the now fuel-injected one that has a reversed cylinder. It's all about smoothing out the power. The peak power, not a problem with the Yamahas. So the Yoshimura exhaust can help do that. And also shout out to MX Tech Suspension. Check out the Lucky Fork, dual springs, dual cartridges, and huck valves. They concentrate not only on good suspension action, but lightweight as well. So go to mx-tech.com. Now a question for Brian Deegan about his X Games memories, and this is a really cool story of battling it out with Travis Pastrana and McGrath, talking about what it was like during those free riding days in the 90s when those videos came out, like Terra Firma and Krusty Demons, and what life was like as a racer then compared to now.
I think absolutely. I did not hate it. I loved it. I mean, I love free riding. I love riding my dirt bike, and I think that it's entirely different, kind of a different world today.
Thanks to Ricky.
When Ricky came in, he kind of changed the way. He changed the ways that everyone needed to get the victories done. I think we had, like I said, living in the 90s and being able to race in the 90s was really fun. I think us being able to go out and kind of let off some steam and shoot some videos and kind of it kind of started a movement really, you know, is just to be able to go out and video all the fun stuff that we were actually having on our dirt bikes made it, you know, I mean, I think it made us different, you know. Some might say that today it's a little too structured, a little too many laps at the same time, but maybe, you know, that's what it takes. Obviously, when Ricky came along, I wasn't doing quite as many laps as he was, and that's what happened. So, but I still nevertheless, I had a lot of fun on my dirt bike, and it's just different now. You know, I think I don't think it would matter with the way social media things are today. It's a lot different. You couldn't probably live the way we were living back then, actually. So you couldn't. You'd get in trouble probably. So again, thankful to be in the '90s.
I'm Preston. I'm from Belton, and I got a question for Ricky. What's your favorite bike brand that you've ever rode during Supercross?
Oh, my favorite bike brand? It certainly wasn't the 2003 Honda.
I mean, it looked good. It went sideways everywhere.
Two of them that stand out. My RM 250, my 2005 was really nice motorcycle, and my 2001 KX 250 was good. I really enjoyed those bikes. My favorite bike, I would say, of all time was my 2004 CRF 450. That bike was so good. It was like cheating. And I loved even just going to practice during weeks. And it seemed as though the worse that the conditions were, the better the bike handled and reacted. And it was, that one was my favorite bike.
I'm glad you chose that one. I was going to choose it for you.
Were you? Yeah, that bike was just absolutely incredible. But I feel like I was pretty lucky when it comes to the teams that I rode for, because not really was I ever on, I feel like I was on the worst bike. I was always, you know, it was always winnable. It surely was. But that 2004 bike certainly stands out. I mean, it was just, like I said, just so much fun. I really enjoyed riding that motorcycle, because a lot of times, like at the practice track, it's not always fun when you have to do your work, but that specific year was just, I mean, every day I just loved it. Couldn't wait to get to the track, even during the weeks. It was hot, miserable during the summer. I'm like, man, this is such a great day. So yeah, that bike, I don't have it. Yeah, Honda didn't give me any bikes, so no.
And then I got one for Brian. What's your favorite Smx trick?
Favorite trick? I'd say the favorite trick that I've done or someone else has done. I'd say that I was there the night, you know, Pastrana did the double backflip. That really stands out in my mind. But my favorite trick was kind of the race to do the 360. That was like 2003 X Games. And I saw Pastrana, I saw him do it on the internet, when the internet, like, that was kind of just all starting with the tricks online. And back then, everyone's just kind of showing what we're doing. Now you kind of hide the stuff. You wouldn't like show anyone what you're doing before the event. So anyway, I saw he was kind of doing this 360 thing in the foam pit. And the day before I went to X Games, I was like, I'm gonna try it. I tried it in my foam pit, and I kind of got it close, but I never did it on dirt. And I just went to X Games that weekend, and I just remember going to the Coliseum. It was packed, like probably the biggest freestyle event ever, like 50,000 fans, electric night, like it was just crazy. And Pastrana was obviously killing it in his run. And then my run, his tricks were better, because he had to do probably like 12 tricks in a run. And I just remember, like, if I was even gonna have a chance, I had to do the 360. So coming to the last jump, and it was like getting ready to throw the red flag, which I had one jump to go, and I'd go at the ramp. I just remember going in my head, like, this is the time, you gotta do it. And it was a popper super kicker ramp, really steep ramp, steep landing. Coming to the ramp, and I'm just like, you just got to go. And I just remember thinking, okay, we got cameras, the medics, the fans, all the things that were like, this is why you need to try. Like, worst case you crash, it's going to be a crash on TV. And right, and you got medics there, which you don't have in your backyard when you're trying tricks. So I remember going for this, and I just remember coming off the ramp and twisting as hard as I could. And I just remember being this most flat, like, spin 360, and it was just, I just remember seeing like it just took like an eternity, and it was just coming around, and I spot the landing, and I'm like, I was kind of under-rotated. And luckily, I had 50-50 the side of the landing, and if I would have done that, I think I would have smacked super hard. And I slid down the landing and kind of muscled it and pulled out of it. And I just remember that's probably the biggest moment of my career, I would say, as far as like just finally one-upping Travis. Like, finally had my moment to go like give it back in his face, because he like pretty much won everything. And so, was able to claim the trick, and that night was kind of like just basically was a memory for me. That was probably one of my top 3 memories. So that was my favorite trick, 360. And not many guys ever did that after, just because it was a sketchy trick. But like I said, I was there the night Pastrana did the double backflip. And I remember talking to him, and that was later in my career, and I remember looking at that ramp. It was straight up, like 15 foot straight. And I'm like, and I remember talking to him, I'm like, you're really going to do a double backflip? He's like, yeah, I'm going to give it a try, see what happens. And I was like, man, this dude's nuts. And I just remember when I saw him do that, come drop in, everyone was watching. Like, Tony Hawk, and I mean, everyone from every discipline was watching that trick. And he comes down the ramp and just, I mean, he was so high in the air and just double back, and he came around so perfect and landed it. And I mean, it was heard around the world. Like, everyone knew that happened. That was like made freestyle motocross a household thing when he did that trick. And I just remember going, I am not doing that. And that was kind of a career-ending night for me, going, I'm not doing that trick. Because when the backflip came out, I was like, I have to do that if I'm going to continue to compete. But the double backflip, that was like, it was still to this day, it blows me away that guys do that. So anyway, there's a little history there for you.
I really like that. I know that we're not hardcore freestyle people here at Racer X. We're more racing people. But I really like the way Deegan told that story and how that double backflip pretty much ended his days as a freestyle competitor. And next thing you know, he starts racing off-road trucks and has great success there. And now he's transferred some of those lessons, right? His daughter, Haley Deegan, is certainly getting a lot of hype as she moves up through the NASCAR ranks. Although I get asked all the time, how good is Haley Deegan? I don't know yet. She's not at a level yet where you can say for sure which direction it's going to go. I mean, obviously there is some talent there. There's tons of people that could get hype. She's obviously backed it up with some driving. But everybody wants to know, like, is this the real deal? Is it going to happen? Well, for the level she is in, it'd be like saying, for sure, is this kid that's racing at Loretta's going to be the next big star of the sport? That's really, really hard to predict. But I've said it over and over. I've said it on this show. I've said it a million times. Deegan has some sort of thing figured out on how to study and learn. He's been too successful in too many different disciplines. He was a really good motocross rider, highly underrated, I think, and then figured out freestyle, went right to the top of that, right at the upper echelon of that, and then off-road truck racing. I even saw him do rally cars once at X Games, which wasn't necessarily his thing, but he figured it out and got really good for the events that he needed to be good in. So there's something about, and then you can see how his kids have picked up on what they're into. So there's something about how he's able to study things that I've always respected. There's a marketing machine with Brian Deegan, but it is absolutely backed up with performance. You cannot argue that. Love or hate the whole metal militia, everything that the Deegans got. It's coming first from performance and then second from the hype. It's not just empty hype. So it was really cool as far as the event goes. McGrath won, and it was a good battle. Chad was on him for a little while, and Deegan was trying to get Chad, and then Deegan's car had problems, and he spun. And then Brayton, who was getting better with kind of each lap in the car, was really putting heat on Brayton at the end. They went door to door, almost passed him, couldn't get it. And then in the last lap, he spun, trying to get that second place spot away. And Carmichael, the cars were not equally matched. I don't think Carmichael's car was a match for the rest of them. He was kind of by himself the whole time. But he ended up rolling through for third when Brayton spun. And Brayton and Dungey came together early in the race, and Dungey ended up in the wall, and his car actually caught on fire. He was okay, but they got a little bit of the havoc and carnage and chaos that they were building up with that one. I was just pumped. It was like my first performance as an agent. I got Brayton into the event. I was the one that recommended, oh, you're looking for a current guy. Here's your guy that'll do it. I didn't get any money, though, but this is just how we start, right? Pro bono, and then Brayton and I are going to the top. We're going to the top. Maybe in NASCAR. Showed some four-wheeled skills. So that's our show this week. I hope you enjoyed the bench racing there with the legends. Of course, Yoshimura and MX Tech. They're our backers for the show. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. Check out the RS12 exhaust and everything else they offer for your motorcycle. A wide variety of brands. They're kind of synonymous right now with the Suzuki and the Honda teams. At the top level, always run Yosh, but they've got stuff for Kawasaki's and Yamahas and KTM's and everything else. And MX Tech suspension developing not just revalves, but a lot of components that make your suspension work a lot better with the Lucky Fork and the MXT National Shock. So check them out at mx-tech.com. That's our show. We'll be back with a couple more pods this week as we ramp up to Daytona. So we'll hear from you soon. Thanks.